Welcome to day 16, Scrum Framework. Deliver value one sprint at a time. Objectives for today that we're going to go over is understand the roles, events, and the artifacts in the Scrum Framework, as well as learn how Scrum promotes iterative development and collaboration. Explore practical applications of Scrum concepts and projects, and then prepare for situational and knowledge-based questions on Scrum. So, what is Scrum, right? We talked about it last chapter, and we want to talk about it now because it's the one role that you'll see that you could actually go out and get a certification for, right? You can't get a product owner certification. You can't get a Kanban certification, but you can get a Scrum Master certification. Why is that? Well, it's become more and more valuable within today's day and age with the digital age and digital transformations that you see across organizations. And so we're going to have to, I want you to pay key attention to this because as you learn some of this stuff, right, this will give you an entry or gateway into one, maybe even getting your Scrum Master certification, but also understanding Scrum for the PMP certification that you're studying for right now. So what is Scrum? Well, it's a lightweight and agile framework that emphasizes iterative development, cross-functional collaboration, and frequent delivery of value. It's widely used in software development and increasingly in other industries. And with today's day and age, delivering value quickly and upfront is the thing that you want to do within any organization, especially when it comes to apps, or especially when it comes to let's use a less mainstream idea, right? Crypto, right? There are a lot of utilities for certain crypto, right? And so one of the tasks that they come up with and that they use, let me rephrase, one of the methodologies that they use is Scrum in order to deliver value quickly to their customers. And who are their customers and who are their stakeholders? People that are interested in supporting their coin and their coin's utility, right? And so more often than not, you'll see that they have these Twitter pages where they're communicating constantly with their stakeholders, understanding what do they need, what do they want, keeping them up to date on what's going on in each project, telling them what's next in the project itself, right? They're gaining feedback from personnel that are interested or are affected by their crypto coin. And so you'll see this with them interacting with stakeholders online, but also interacting with people that they can that will use their coin and implement it as it's intended to be used, right? Its utility. So just keep that in mind. Key components of Scrum, right? Scrum is one of the most popular agile frameworks designed to help teams work collaboratively to deliver value incrementally. To understand Scrum, it's essential to grasp its core components, starting with Scrum roles. Each role plays a specific part in ensuring that the team operates efficiently and delivers value to stakeholders. Below is a detailed explanation of the key roles within Scrum, tailored for those who are learning the first time about it. So these are for people who don't understand what Scrum is, right? You don't have any experience in project management or Scrum framework, and so now you're trying to learn essentially trying to learn about Scrum. Let's just leave it there. So one, Scrum roles, right? In Scrum, there are three distinct roles, right? The product owner, Scrum Master, and development team. Together, they form the Scrum team, which works closely with the stakeholders to deliver value high quality outcomes. Each role is clearly defined to ensure accountability, collaboration, and focus. So you have the product owner, the voice of the customer. The product owner acts as a bridge between the team and the stakeholders, ensuring that the team delivers maximum value to the business and its end users, right? So its primary responsibilities that you'll see is to manage the product backlog. That's the first one. That's the first and most important one. Why? Well, that's what the team or development team will utilize in order to create their sprint backlog. And you'll see that in the coming sub-chapters that we'll go over. So product owner maintains the product backlog, which is a prioritized list of work items or features, often called user stories, that the team will complete. So an example for this is an e-commerce app, right? The product backlog might include items like add a shopping cart or implement a secure payment system, right? These are things that are on the product backlog that are prioritized in a certain order that the sprint, that the Scrum Master can utilize and take from the product backlog and put it into a sprint backlog that they can use for each sprint. Two, prioritize work. The product owner works with stakeholders to identify the most valuable features and prioritizes them based on business goals and user needs. An example of this is a feature that increases customer retention might take priority over a feature that only improves internal efficiency, right? And so it prioritizes the work they prioritize the work so that the Scrum Master doesn't have to, right? Giving them options for them to utilize and decide how they want to tackle each user story within the product backlog. Three, define success criteria. They ensure that each user story has clear acceptance criteria, which defines when a task is considered complete and meets the required standards. An example is the shopping cart should allow users to add, remove, and view items with real-time price updates, right? So why is the product owner important? Well, the product owner ensures that the team focuses on delivering the right product at the right time, aligning work with business goals. Without a strong product owner, teams risk building features that don't add value or align with stakeholder expectations. Great, so this was just a brief overview of the product owner, right? This doesn't have everything, but it has enough for you to grasp and understand essentially what the product owner's responsibilities are, how they should move, what they should focus on, right? What their value is to the company and the organization as well as the project, right? This just gives you a brief overview that I want you to digest, right? Really think about. And think about the examples, right? They kind of bring it home. And think about additional examples. I think the best way to learn is to apply what you learn to real life examples that you understand. And so figure out a way to explain it to yourself, and then you'll be able to explain it to anybody else. Scrum Master. So the Scrum Master, or the process guardian, right? The Scrum Master ensures that the team follows Scrum principles and practices while facilitating a productive and supportive environment. The Scrum Master is what you would see in a predictive environment as a project manager. Essentially, they're the person that places themselves at the point of friction, solving any problems that their team can't handle. But without further ado, let's read essentially what the primary responsibilities are for the Scrum Master. So they are to facilitate the Scrum process. The Scrum Master organizes and leads Scrum ceremonies such as the daily stand-ups, sprint planning, sprint reviews, and retrospective. Example of this is during a daily stand-up, the Scrum Master ensures that each team member shares progress updates and highlights obstacles without turning to the meeting into a lengthy discussion. And so what daily stand-up is, and we'll learn a little bit more about this, it's just a 15-minute conversation that you have with your team members, updating what they've done, what they will do, right? What obstacles they've faced and or plan to face in the future. This is just to maintain some transparency within your team and ensure that you guys are all on the same page. 2, they remove obstacles, right? The Scrum Master identifies and resolves impediments that block the team's progress, allowing them to focus on their work, right? Example of this is if the team is waiting on server access to deploy a feature, the Scrum Master coordinates with IT to resolve the issue quickly, right? You're the person they go to when they can't solve the problem themselves and they need a little bit higher expertise, or they need somebody who has a little bit more pull. That go to you with the problem, and you go out and you fix it. It sounds simple, but it can be kind of hectic when you're dealing with different types of problems. This one is an easy solve. Obviously, just go to IT and they'll figure it out for you, or they'll help you out. Hopefully, you have some pull. This is where interpersonal skills really come into play, right? If you're going to be effective at getting problems solved, you need to have relationships that will help you solve them. 3, coach and guide the team, right? Act as a mentor, ensuring that the team understands and adheres to Scrum values, principles, and practices. An example of this is if the team members are unclear about the purpose of retrospectives, the Scrum Master explains their importance in fostering continuous improvement. So why is Scrum Master important in itself? Well, it's a team servant leader, focusing on empowering the team and creating an environment where they can thrive. By removing obstacles and prompting self-organization, they ensure that the team operates efficiently and delivers high-quality work. And that's what you're there to do, deliver high-quality work. As a project manager or a Scrum Master, that is your one priority, right? Maintain the process, ensuring that you stay on budget, on schedule, but also delivering high-quality items and products and services, right? These are things that you will have to do if you want to be effective and you want to stay in as a project manager. 3rd is the development team, right? The builders of value. The development team is a group of professionals with diverse skills who work collaboratively to deliver increments of value during each sprint. Primary responsibilities is to deliver increments of value. The team is responsible for completing user stories and delivering potentially shippable products increments by the end of each sprint. And so they have to have products of value at the end of each sprint. You can't just develop something that is built in stages and develop the first half of it. You need something that's viable, right? That works at the end of each sprint, right? That's why you have a prioritization list. You're not just continuously working on the same thing throughout each sprint. No, you need to have a product that's finished at the end of your sprint, whether it's 2 to 4 weeks, whether it's 1 to 2 weeks. You need to have a minimal viable product. So 2, self-organized work, right? The team determines how to accomplish the work without micromanagement, deciding who will take on what specific tasks based on their expertise. You'll see this. An example, developer might volunteer to handle backend integration while another focuses on the user interface. You're just splitting up the workload. 3, achieve sprint goals, right? So the team collaborates to meet the goals defined during the sprint planning, ensuring that their work aligns with the product owner's priorities. Example is if the product goal is to enable users to add items to the wish list, the team focuses solely on tasks related to that feature. And I'll say this, a lot of organizations, tech companies use product owners, right, as a means to control what is going on with the project itself. And so you guys will see this in companies like Apple, Google, right? You'll see this in these high-end tech companies where they're using product owners to manage specifically the iPhone 12 Pro Max, right? Or the new iPad or the new Apple Watch, right? And specific, they'll have product owners for each version, each variation, right? And so you'll have the product owners, and then you'll have the Scrum teams, or you'll have people who are working on teams below them who are actually doing the work, developing the infrastructure, developing the CAD designs, developing the code that goes in it, right? Sourcing the hardware that you need to put it into the product itself. Like, these are things that are going on below the surface, but this is how they break it down. They break it down using Scrum methodologies or Agile methodologies. So why is the development team important? Well, they bring the product to life. By being a cross-functional team, right, possessing all the necessary skills, that's what cross-functional means. Usually, the team is comprised of different people with different skill sets and different disciplines. And the development team is self-organized, right? They ensure that the work is completed efficiently and to a high standard. So how do these roles work together? Well, the success of Scrum depends on the collaboration and communication between the three roles. Here's how they interact, right? The product owner and the development team. Well, the product owner prioritizes the work while the development team executes it. They communicate frequently to clarify requirements and address questions. An example of this is during sprint planning, the product owner explains a user story and the development team estimates the effort required. And you'll get into the estimation techniques that you would use in order to estimate the amount of effort and time required to complete a task. But you'll see if you're a team that's been working together for a while, you'll understand your pace, your velocity. That's a key term, and you'll learn that later on. But you'll understand at what pace you can work and achieve some successful deliverable. 2, the Scrum Master and the development team. So the Scrum Master supports the development team by removing impediments and ensuring that they have the resources needed to succeed. An example of this is if the team members struggle with understanding a technical tool, the Scrum Master arranges training session, right? They give them the opportunity to learn the things that they don't know, and that's important, right? As a Scrum Master, that's where the Scrum Master and Project Manager are very similar. The product owner and Scrum Master, right? The product owner focuses on what, the product, while the Scrum Master focuses on how, the process. They work together to ensure alignment between the team's work and the project's goals, right? So the example is the Scrum Master may advise the project owner or the product owner to refine the backlog items to make them more actionable for the development team. Basically, give greater detail on what needs to be solved so that they can go out and solve it, right? Because essentially, the product owner maybe gave a vague definition of what he wanted for each user story instead of giving a specific one. So the 3 roles in Scrum, product owner, Scrum Master, and development team form a balanced and collaborative framework that ensures that the team delivers high-value results. Each role has unique responsibilities, right? So the product owner prioritizes the work and ensures alignment with the business goals. The Scrum Master facilitates the process, removes obstacles, and fosters an environment of continuous improvement, while the development team executes the work, delivering high-quality incremental value. So by understanding these roles and respecting these roles, teams can fully embrace Scrum and achieve agility needed to succeed in today's fast-paced project environment. So without further ado, we're moving into Scrum events, right? So we just went through Scrum roles. We're going to move into Scrum events, right? How the processes play out. So Scrum operates within a set of structured events designed to create a rhythm and ensure consistent progress. So let's break down the Scrum events and explore their significance in detail. Sprint, right? The sprint is the heart of Scrum, right? A sprint is a foundational time box within which a team works to deliver a potentially shippable product increment. It sets the pace for the entire Scrum progress. So what it is, right? It's a fixed time period, typically lasting between 2 to 4 weeks, where the team focuses on completing a set of tasks defined by the sprint backlog. The duration is consistent throughout the project to establish a predictable cadence, right? So the purpose is to create a focused, time-bound environment where the team can deliver incremental value to stakeholders. Some key characteristics is that sprint duration cannot be extended, right? The constraint pushes teams to prioritize and plan effectively. So you need to make sure that you're solving for specific problems that will deliver the most value the fastest, right? Because you are solving not for the most user stories to complete, or you're not solving to just work on the most user stories that you can. You're focusing on finishing a feature, finishing a user story within a time bound or a time box, usually between 2 to 4 weeks. And then 2, potentially a shippable product increment, right? So the goal is to deliver a working, high-quality product increment by the end of the sprint. An example of this is in a 2-week sprint for a mobile app, the team might commit to delivering a functional login feature, ensuring it's fully tested and ready for release. And so that's a great example. that's a great example. You need to have something that's shippable. Shippable doesn't necessarily mean it's physical. It means that you're able to put in place that feature immediately. 2, sprint planning, setting the stage for success. Sprint planning occurs at the start of each sprint and is essential for defining the team's focus and objectives. So what it is, right? It's a collaborative meeting where the product owner, scrum master, and development team plan the upcoming sprint. The team determines the sprint goal and selects the backlog items to work on. So this is where you would pull from the backlog items in order to create the sprint backlog. The purpose is to establish a clear direction for the sprint and ensure everyone understands the work to be completed. Key characteristics that you'll see: the sprint goal, right? A concise, overarching objective that provides value and provides a focus and context for the sprint. Example is enables users to add items to their shopping cart, right? That's the goal of the sprint, right? That's a particular goal that you think you can accomplish within 2 to 4 weeks. It should be accomplishable at least. And then 2, backlog selection. This team selects user stories or tasks from the product backlog based on priority and capacity. And capacity is one you should pay attention to, right? What is the capacity of your team to complete this within a 2 to 4 week time period? Can you guys produce a working product? You got to understand that. What is the expertise of the personnel on your team? Are they capable of finishing this project? Do they need additional training? Important to think about. 3, time box. The planning session is limited to 8 hours for a 1-month sprint, with shorter durations for shorter sprints. Example is during sprint planning for a website redesign, the team might decide to focus on creating the homepage layout and integrating basic navigation, right? And so 3, daily scrum stand-up, right? Keeping everyone aligned. The daily scrum is a short meeting held every day during the sprint planning to maintain alignment and transparency. And so it's a 15-minute time box where team members can discuss progress, plans, and any impediments. Purpose is to ensure that the team remains aligned, identifying potential roadblocks early, and fostering accountability. So some key characteristics that you'll see is that they ask these 3 questions, right? What did I do yesterday? What will I do today? And then, are there any impediments in my way for me accomplishing that task? 2, it's focused and efficient, right? The meeting is kept brief to avoid disrupting the team's flow. So an example is a developer might report in a daily scrum that they completed the login feature yesterday and plan to work on error handling today and need help from another team to resolve the API issue, right? And so these are things that you would see where you have created somewhat of a product. You want to make sure that you are tackling every aspect of it, and you may need additional help from other individuals. And so that is where the Scrum Master can help you either resource somebody from outside the team or find time on somebody's schedule within the team to work with. 4, sprint review, showcasing progress, right? The sprint review is held at the end of each sprint to demonstrate the completed work to stakeholders and gather feedback. What it is it's a collaborative session where the team showcases the product increment and discusses what was accomplished during the sprint. Its purpose is to inspect the progress made, gather feedback, and adapt the product backlog based on stakeholder input. Key characteristics that you'll see is, that's killing me. Every time I say character, I can't even say it. Key characteristics statement, or key characteristics is a stakeholder engagement, right, where stakeholders actively participate, providing insights and feedback on the product increment. 2, feedback driven. The session ensures the team remains aligned with the stakeholders' expectation, right? Then it gives an example for that. And then 5, sprint retrospective, right? Continuous improvement. The sprint retrospective is held after the sprint review and focuses on improving team processes and collaboration. It's a dedicated meeting where the Scrum team reflects on the sprint's execution and identifies areas for improvement. In the military, we like to call this AAR, right? You're doing an after action review. You're understanding what went right, what went wrong, how do we improve on what went wrong, right? And then how do we sustain what went well? And so this is something that you need to do after every single project. You need to reflect, right? You'll see that in every progress where you have whether you're doing predictive methods and you're using a lessons learned register, or you're doing a sprint retrospective, right? You're always continuously improving as a project manager, ensuring that people who take over the project after you, or, you know, for further sprints, you have the information about the previous sprints that will help you, 1, be more efficient, but also be more effective. And then 2, it's action oriented, right? The team identifies specific actions to address any issues or enhance strengths, right? An example of this is if communication was a challenge, the team might decide to implement a new collaboration tool. And so you always want to continuously improve, and if you are able to communicate a little bit better using a collaboration tool or PMIS system, then you'll be better for it. So how do these events work together? Well, they're interconnected. They create a rhythm that supports planning, execution, review, and improvement. But here's exactly how they fit together. So sprint planning sets the goal and the work for the sprint. Daily Scrum ensures progress is on track and issues are addressed promptly. Sprint review provides an opportunity to demonstrate progress and gather feedback. Sprint retrospective focuses on improving processes for the next sprint, and then the sprint itself serves as a structured time box for delivering value. Hopefully, as we're continuously talking about these terms and these concepts and these activities that you will participate in if you use Scrum, you guys are gaining a better understanding of it, right? So here's some definitions right there talking about sprint planning, daily Scrum, sprint reviews, and then sprint retrospective. Just make sure you read through that. And then we're moving into Scrum artifacts, right? So Scrum artifacts are essential tools that provide transparency, focus, and alignment in the Scrum framework. They represent the work being done, the work being completed, as well as the team's progress. For someone learning Scrum for the first time, understanding these artifacts is crucial to applying them to Scrum effectively. So let's break them down, right? So there's 3 core Scrum artifacts: the product backlog, the sprint backlog, and the increment, right? And so the product backlog is the first one we're going to go over, and it's the master list of work, right? It's a comprehensive document that lists all the features, enhancements, bug fixes, and other work items required to create and improve the product. And so it's essentially a master to-do list for the project. It's owned by and managed by the product owner, who prioritizes items to ensure the team delivers the most valuable features first. So key characteristics that you'll see from the product backlog is that it's prioritized, it's dynamic, meaning the backlog is continuously refined, and it's user-focused. The backlog items are often written as user stories, right, which describe features from the end user's perspective. It describes what essentially they want, what the outcome is, right, and then you have to figure out how to get there. Why it matters, right? The product backlog ensures the team always knows what to work on next and focuses their efforts on delivering maximum value to the stakeholder. 2, right, the sprint backlog, the sprint specific to-do list, right? So you pull items from the product backlog, but we'll get into that. So the sprint backlog is a subset of the product backlog, consisting of the items the team has committed to completing during the current sprint. It also includes a plan for how the team will deliver these items. So the sprint backlog is a team's to-do list, right? It's created during the sprint planning, and it includes the selected backlog items, i.e. user stories or tasks. Also, a plan detailing how the work will be completed during the sprint. A key characteristic is that it's focused, right? It's a smaller focused subset of the product backlog. It includes only the items that the team can realistically compete within the sprint. And that's why capacity matters within the team itself, right? What is your ability to complete certain items within the sprint? And 2, it's team owned. The development team takes ownership of the sprint backlog. They decide how to divide the work and who will handle what specific task. And then 3, it evolves during the sprint, right? The sprint backlog can evolve as a team works through it. For example, additional tasks might be identified as needed to complete a user story, right? You may be working on a story and then you understand that, okay, I've worked through this. Now I'm at a point where I need these additional things in order to complete this user story. And so these are things that you set out to accomplish at the beginning, but now that you've worked through it and now that you're in the thick of it, you understand that it needs more or it has more tasks that are part of this user story. 3, increment, right? The deliverable outcome. So the increment represents the cumulative work completed during the sprint. Is the sum of all the product backlog items that have been fully developed, tested, and meet the definition of done. So what it is the increment is the actual tangible output from the key characteristics, and every time, key characteristics, it kills me. Potentially shippable, right? Each increment must be in a usable state, even if it's not ready yet for final release. 2, cumulative, right? The increment builds on all previous work, reflecting continuous improvement of the product. And then 3, aligned with the definition of done. The increment must meet the increment of done, or the definition of done, which is shared understanding of what it means for the backlog item to be complete. So why it matters, right? The increment demonstrates the team's progress and allows stakeholders to see tangible results at the end of the sprint, building trust and confidence in the process. If you are developing a user story, you're developing a feature for an app, and time again throughout your sprints, you're not delivering any value, the plug's going to be pulled from your project because you're not delivering anything to the company, but you're using a ton of resources. And so what you need to do is ensure, as a project manager, as a scrum master, ensure that based on your team's capacity, right, you prioritize the correct user stories to complete during that 2 to 4 week period. So how these artifacts work together, that's just a little game I just wanted to give you. How do these artifacts work together? Product backlog and sprint backlog. Well, during sprint planning, the team selects high priority items from the product backlog to create the sprint backlog. And we're going over this stuff. I've mentioned this stuff before, but it's kind of solidifying this. Hopefully this is starting to to solidify itself in your brain, and you're understanding it and digesting it at a higher rate as we continuously go over these items over and over again throughout this chapter, right? We talked about the product backlog, sprint backlog, and what they do. We talked about how they communicate, how they integrate within one another, or how they're nested within one another. But hopefully you're starting to digest what I'm saying. Sprint backlog and the increment, right? The team works on the sprint backlog items during a sprint, ultimately delivering a usable increment. 3, feedback loop. Stakeholder feedback from sprint reviews may lead to new items being added to the product backlog, keeping the process dynamic and iterative, right? So Scrum artifacts ensure transparency, alignment, and focus throughout the project, right? And so you have the product backlog, sprint backlog, and increment definitions again. Key principles of Scrum that you'll see is transparency. Everyone involved has visibility into progress and challenges. 2, inspection, right? Regular reviews of the process and deliverables ensure alignment with goals. And then 3, adaptation, right? Adjustments are made based on feedback and changing conditions. So Scrum in action, right? Sprint flow work example. I want you guys to read through that, what it looks like going through the sprint workflow, right? Sprint planning, daily Scrum, increment delivery, sprint review, and retrospective. And then go through some challenges, right? The challenges that we see is the unclear product backlog, team resistance to daily stand-ups, inconsistent velocity, right? And so read through, understand it, right? And then we'll get into the practice scenarios. I want you guys to look through them the same way you've looked through every single practice scenario. Read the practice scenario, think about how you would answer it, then look at the answer inside and gain some understanding into how PMI would like you to answer it and how PMI would answer, right? Or the right way to answer it. And then go into the practice questions for day 16. Like I said, go through them yourself, read the explanations, right? And then if you want to understand how did I get to that answer without, it always becomes obvious after you read the explanation. But if you want to see how I break down questions, you can go online to my playlist that has all the practice questions for each day. Go to day 16 and it'll cover all 10 of these questions. And so for the end of day reflection, Scrum fosters collaboration, transparency, and iterative value delivery. Reflect on how these roles, events, and artifacts of Scrum can be applied in your projects, right? Projects that you've done. How can Scrum help your team improve communication and adaptability? Tomorrow we'll dive deeper into the Kanban framework and its practical application. So if you still want to study, which you should, go to the processing map game, use these flashcards, learn the terms, study the terms, understand the terms, as well as understand the processes, and you'll be better for it. Without further ado, if you haven't already, like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow. Peace.